On today's show, I'll talk about the gray area that shouldn't exist. Is Bethune-Cookman the best sounding HBCU band right now? And we'll look at all the matchups from this past week, and I'll tell you which one I enjoyed the most. All this and more coming up next on Luke's Band Report. Good evening, afternoon, or whenever you're watching me right now. My name is Jay Luke, the owner and operator of the Passionates Network and the host of Talk That Talk. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Real Talk That Talk. You can also pick up any of our merchandise at realtalkthattalk.com. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. So the first things first, on the show on Talk That Talk, I said a statement that said basically, I think that right now Bethune-Cookman has the best sounding HBCU band as it states right now, right? The truth of the matter is it's true. Now, what are we judging that off of? What am I judging that off of? What am I looking at, right? Am I looking at who cranks up the most? No, I'm not looking at that. That's not where my variable is coming from. I'm looking at just straight quality of sound. And I know many people are going to say, well, they play the same thing over and over again. They always play the same thing. The arrangements are easy, so on and so forth, right? Shouldn't you do that, though? Shouldn't you play music to the strength of your program? Isn't that what being a good director and being a good leader and that's what you're supposed to do, right? Now, that doesn't mean that you don't challenge your kids. And I'm not going to sit here and say that the music that they have is not challenging to them. It just very well may be, right? But they play to the level and the strength of the program. And so it works for them. So many times what we see in a lot of programs is that programs are playing music that is not to the strength of their program. They're trying to overcompensate and trying to match up with other programs and do things of that nature. And it ends up sounding bad. Case in point, when you have euphonium players that are playing things in registers that they just can't hit, or you have 12, 13, 14 euphoniums, but only 10 or 5 can hit the notes or play the things that you can play or asking them to play. That means that you may be reaching too far outside of the range for the students that you have. And the truth be told, when it comes to Bethune, there's never, I'm not gonna say never, let me stop. There are not too many times where I've heard intonation issues. There are not too many times where quality of sound has not been top notch. There are not too many times where attacks and releases were not grade A. I mean, the truth is in the pudding. I mean, or the proof is in the pudding. Something about the pudding, I don't know. But the truth of the matter is it's there. Do they crank up all the time? No. And I mean, that's who they are. And I think the greatest thing about what I said last week and what I'm saying today is the fact that they're sticking to who they are, and they are great at being who they are, and they've mastered it. Do we wish that they would do something different? Absolutely. Do we wish that they would play another song? Absolutely. But they've made a name and a statement for themselves from being who they are. And that's where their statement is. So many other band programs are trying to make statements by trying to be someone else. And I think that Bethune has mastered the art of being who they are. And they do a great job at it. So when it all boils down to it, if I'm looking at historically Black college and university band programs, and I'm looking at the quality of sound of those band programs, I'm going to choose Bethune. Excuse me. I'm going to choose Bethune 9 times out of 10. And by the way, guys, you got to excuse me. I don't know. It's this allergy thing going around, and I think I got it, but it's not COVID. Don't think that. But the truth of the matter is that they've mastered who they are, and quality of sound is top notch. And I would dare ask you to put any program against Bethune, where we're talking about quality of sound, intonation, balance and blend, attacks and releases. I mean, and I'm going to talk about this later, and it's probably getting on later on to the point of later on in the broadcast. But even they know how to do dynamics well. Crescendos, decrescendos, pianos, mezzo pianos, they do it well. And there are not too many times where I've seen them miss. One of my good friend Ricardo's favorite songs from them is "My Bed," and they did a fantastic job at doing that. So the truth is, you can argue with me if you want to, and it's fine. Go ahead and put it in the comments. You guys talk in the comments. You can go ahead and put it in there. If you agree with me, type in agree. If you disagree, go ahead and type disagree. We can just have that discussion. We can talk about it. I look at the comments all the time. I read them. Sometimes I respond, and even I'll bring them up on the show. But what argument do you have that's going to be able to stand against what I said? Are you going to be able to have the conversation about the quality of sound? I ain't talking about who cranks up the most. I'm not talking about who plays the top 10, top 20, top whatever of the songs that I don't even know that's out there right now. I'm talking about, at the end of the day, quality of sound. Best sounding HBCU band right now. With that being said, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic. Our next topic, I was able to catch up with a lot of shows this past week, or a lot of programs. I know that Alcorn and Grambling went at it. I know that Prairie View this past week had Mississippi Valley. Unfortunately, I don't think Valley showed up. I think Southern was at FAM, if I'm not mistaken. And Jackson and Alabama A&M. Now, there may have been somebody I missed, but I tried to catch up with as many groups as I could. Best performance for me, you guys aren't going to believe this, it was Alabama and Jackson State. Yeah, that was for me the best fifth quarter that I watched, that I had the chance to watch this past week. I didn't get a chance to get to any field shows, but I'm definitely going to talk about the fifth quarter. Here's the reason why. I listened to Alcorn and Grambling, and I'm and again, I always want to try to make sure that I put this out there, that I respect what everybody's doing. I respect what the kids are doing. I respect the effort that the kids are putting in, the work that the kids are putting in, the work that the directors are putting in. One of the greatest things that I enjoy about doing this right now is I am a director. And so I have a director's mindset. And so I understand the challenges that afford you all. And so I'm always going to be very mindful of that when having these conversations and having this talk. With that being said, that doesn't negate the fact that I can always put my opinion out there, without being rude and without being disrespectful. The truth of the matter is that, and I think it was Alcorn's homecoming. The truth of the matter is, though, it was some things that I just saw or heard, not necessarily saw, from both programs that just needed a little bit more polishing. But big shout out to Alcorn. So fun fact, real quick, before I get to the group that I truly enjoyed, I'm gonna tell you why. In 2013, Rick Brown, when we were at Prairie View together, called me up and he said, "Hey man, it's a tune that I want you to write." And I said, "What tune are you talking about?" He just happened to be in the car with a good friend of ours, DJ Custom. And I was like, what song are you talking about? He said, "Dog, have you ever seen this movie called Breaking 2? I said, "Yeah, man, I've seen that movie before, man. It's classic." Bro, the song where Turbo is crawling on the wall. He's like, "I don't want to come down." He said, "Bro, listen to this." And I was like, "All right, cool." So I wrote it. And it's a good arrangement. We put it on the stand. I think we put it on the stand in Prairie View, if I'm not mistaken. The kids enjoyed it. It just never. It's one of those band room classics, right? The ones that the kids play and they really enjoyed it, but just never left the band room. I don't even know if that's a thing that even exists at this point anymore. But I know that during our time, it happened. It happened when I marched with the Legion. It happened when I was at Prairie View. Heck, it happened when I was in high school. Anyway. Point that I'm trying to get to is Alcorn happened to play it. So kudos to Alcorn playing a song that, I originally I wrote back in 2013, and me and him were like, bro, nobody's ever gonna play this song because we never think that anybody's listening to that kind of stuff. I listen to a lot of or off the beaten path kind of things that a lot of people don't listen to, and Allcorn played it. Shout out to you, Allcorn, for playing that song. So big ups to you guys. I never thought I'd hear somebody play it. So very, very, very cool. But I will say this though. If ever I get my opportunity, I ain't gonna say get my opportunity, but if ever I get back into the field of directing and being in front of another band program, and you hear it, just know that I did write it in 2013. Now, I'm not saying that Allcorn didn't write it before me. I'm not saying that, but I am just kind of putting it out there. Anyway, but let me move forward. Um, but yeah, it was just some things that I just heard from the two groups that I just feel like they just need a little bit more work, specifically in the trumpet section. And that goes back to the conversation I had last week. Trumpets just really need a lot of work. Euphoniums, again, reaching for things that I just feel like they need to just back off on. And they need to play as a section. A lot of the times they're not playing as a section. They're trying to play as superheroes. And sometimes what ends up happening is those superheroes end up creating stickouts. And that's not necessarily what you want from your program. You don't want to create a bunch of stickouts. And that's kind of what's happening. And the last thing that I ended up hearing is, and this goes for everybody, guys, if you're going to write split parts in anything, tuba, trombone, euphonium, so on and so forth, where you're trying to create these super dope, melodies or lyrical lines where those two parts are playing off of each other. The thing that you probably want to do, and this is, again, not trying to be rude or slight to anybody, the thing that you want to do is that you want to make sure that the people who are playing the other parts are just as strong as the people who are playing part A need to be just as strong as people playing part B. Because what happens is part B may be very strong, but part A may get lost in the sauce and you lose the integrity of that rhythmic line. And so just go back, look at those parts and put some stronger people on it. Remember this, just because you play second or third, that does not have to be your worst players. Sometimes when you play a second or third part, most of the time that needs to be your best players, because without the second or third part, the first part doesn't matter, because most of the time you will put your root position, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of times you're going to put your root position in your first part. So if you're going to do that, you need those harmonies to be able to bring out that root and help to bring out that overtone. So you need those parts. And if you don't have strong people on those parts, then it's not going to matter anyway. So when you have those melodies, anything like that, just make sure that you have stronger players on part A and part B. Anyway, moving forward to Alabama and Jackson State. The reason why I truly enjoy their battle, because it was a moment in that battle where they made a conscious decision to actually play music. And I mean music. Um, they were playing some ballads in there. I can't remember what song it was that they played that I was just so happy to hear them play. I think it was either Jackson or Alabama. But for a second there, it almost felt like an old school fifth quarter. And I applauded them and I really respected them for that. But there was something that did happen in there that I thought was very interesting as well. I don't know if those arrangements that Jackson was playing was new arrangements or whether they were old arrangements. I have absolutely no clue. But what I can tell you is the fact that they are definitely arranged differently than the way that they arrange their rap songs. And when they are arranged differently, you can also tell the difference again in how the kids approach the music. Now, does that mean that I think that they approached it like they just didn't care about it? No. But I do think that they tried to attempt it in a way and approach it in a way that the way that they approach their rap tunes, and it just doesn't come out that way. It does not translate the same way when you're trying to overplay songs that are written with, 4-part harmonies in certain places where the trumpets are standing alone and not doubling with the mellophones, when mellophones have beautiful counter melodies and things of that nature, when they're not doubling. It's it's approached differently. And I think that sometimes, and I'm not going to just put it on Jackson. I'm also going to put it on any program. I think that sometimes the kids aren't prepared for it because their ears are not trained to hear certain things like that. And so they try to overplay and overcompensate. And when it doesn't sound right, then it almost makes them want to divert back into almost like pulling back into their shell. So again, I'm not saying that Jackson sounded bad, and I'm not saying that Alabama sounded bad. What I'm saying is that it almost felt like Jackson playing those tunes were outside of their comfort zone, whereas Alabama, because Alabama A&M for the most part plays, or in the past, Mario has written pieces that were more or less conducive to that writing style and that playing style. They felt more comfortable and in the pocket of playing that. Now, with all that being said, I think they went back and forth for like 3 or 4, maybe 5 tunes where just there was no tuba breaks, there was none of that, there was no cranking. It was just right in there. The technical style of the programs were being shown, and I really enjoyed it. And then right after that, Jackson was like, "All right, I'm tired of this. Let's crank it back up again," and they surely did. But I thoroughly enjoyed. Alabama and Jackson State. So kudos. I don't know what a kudos is. Didn't mean to say kudos, but I'm gonna go ahead and give you your flowers. So appreciate y'all. I really appreciated that battle. Big shout out to Alabama and Jackson State. Again, top notch. If we can have more fifth quarters like that, that would be great. I mean, because the truth of the matter is, they cranked it up at the beginning. They gave us the stuff in the middle. Please excuse my nostrils right now. They gave us the stuff in the middle, and then they cranked it up at the end. I like that. That's versatility for you. I appreciate seeing that. I think one of the things that I do get bothered by, and this is not talking about anybody specifically, but one of the things that I do get bothered by is when programs try to do that, but then they write the music in the same style that they write it in as they as the crank up music. And then when band programs are trying to do mezzo pianos or pianos on slow tunes, it just sounds bad because we approach it so wrong. It's like we back off on our air because we want to play softer. And when we do that, we tend to play flat. Specifically in the trumpets, people end up missing notes and things of that nature. And then all of a sudden, when everybody's turned back up, then it all of a sudden sounds balanced. Well, I ain't gonna say it necessarily sounds balanced, but it sounds grand and I guess you want to say full again. I don't know. I don't really want to call it full, but it just has a more cohesive sound. But the problem is that if you back off and you play those mezzo pianos and those piano lines correctly and approach it the right way with the right oral cavity and the right vowel shapes and using the right air, then you will have a clarity and a quality of sound. The problem is that we don't do that because we still try to write in the crank up context with the open fists and so on and so forth, right? So I think that, again, they just approached it very well for me, Alabama and Jackson. And again, kudos to you guys. We need more fists like that. 0 quarters. If you do the crank up all day, that's cool. That's cool. I personally think if you start out at 0 quarter with the March Daddy, do a march, and then crank up from there. If you there early enough for the 0 quarter, I say go for it. Why not? Have fun, balls to the wall. So there we go. That's where I that's where I am this past week as far as the fifth quarter is concerned. And shout out to Justin. I saw you out there running back and forth to both sides. So yeah, final topic. This one is nothing about band. I'm just gonna kind of preface it that way. So there's this. Let me put it this way. Colorado, University of Colorado. Brother Deion Sanders, and the things that he's doing there in Boulder. I think we're on two sides of the fence. I think there are people who are 100% with him. There are people who are not with him. There are people who are 50% with him. Whatever. I'm not necessarily here to talk about that. Shout out to what he's doing. they won a game. They won a game, and he wasn't too thrilled about how they won the game, and that's fine. Big ups to him. What I have a problem with is how we deal with it. We have to be better. We have to be better in our discernment and how we decide to be able to speak on things and support things. There's nothing wrong with supporting Deion, Coach Prime. There's nothing wrong with that at all. What I have a problem with is how we support. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a picture that's going around with a brother, black brother, that has a shirt that says HBCU, and it has University of Colorado CU on there. This picture right here. Here's my thing, brother. And this is where I have a big problem. The big problem that I have is the fact that historically black colleges and universities were started because of the fact that we had nowhere. And I don't know you, man, and I'm not going to sit up here and talk about you, but what I will say is I don't know if you even went to a HBCU. But if you didn't, going to a HBCU, an historic black college and university, is a sacred thing. That's what we do. That's what we as a people do. And we enjoy our experience, and that experience is like none other. And no, I'm not knocking anybody who goes to a predominantly white institution. I'm not at all. I got my master's from right there. I got my master's from a predominantly white institution. So I'm not knocking you for going to a predominantly white institution, but let's be very clear. I'm going to read this to you. The enrolled student population at University of Colorado Boulder is 65.4% white, 12.5% Hispanic or Latino, 6.7% Asian, 5.78 two or more races, 1.72% Black or African American. So the truth is, at the end of the day, you are mad disrespectful. Because while Coach Prime and the success that he's having in Colorado is cool, my biggest issue is the fact that he had to take black kids from a black university over to Colorado. And the people that come through, all the celebrities and all of them, yeah, they may be chocolate folk, but that doesn't constitute that as a historic black college or university. And what you've done is you have been massively disrespectful to the people who have fought for historical black colleges and universities, to the people who have attended historical black colleges and universities, and the people who continue to represent and fight for historically black colleges and universities. There's nothing historically black about the University of Colorado. If you want to show your support, there are a million ways to do that. And I'm going to be honest, the truth of the matter is we have gotten so far into this world with this gray area thing that we're missing a lot of marks. I'm going to tell you like this. There is no such thing as your truth. My good friend Deontay said it best on Talk That Talk. There's only the truth. And the truth is 1.72% Black. The truth is predominantly white institution, 65%. The truth is the only reason why there's an influx of chocolate is because of Coach Prime. And that still don't change the 1.72%. Maybe it's like 1.73 now because of the players that he brought from a black university. We've got to do better with establishing the right and establishing the wrong. And we also got to stop applauding people for the gray area stuff. Because I know there's some people out there who look at that shirt, who look at stuff like that and laugh at that and think that it's cool. And the reality is, it's not cool. Say what you want. It's just not cool. And we got to do better. Stop accepting gray area stuff. That's all I got to say about that. With that being said, man, I appreciate it. Everybody who's tuned in, man. If you guys are in the chat, man, I appreciate y'all. If y'all enjoy the show, man, go ahead and give me a 1. Also, go ahead and give me a like and a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the Passionates Network. Also, please make sure you share this information out to all your people, all your friends, everything, man. I've been watching everything. I appreciate you guys' comments on the last show. Join us on Talk That Talk on Wednesday. Also, Krista Williams will be back on Diary of a Lady Band Director. My goodness, I cannot talk. Also, I do want to clarify one more thing. I know on Talk That Talk, I was talking about a tragedy at Norfolk State. I want to clarify myself. I did not mean to say Norfolk State, but I was talking very fast. I actually meant to say Morgan State, but people understood what I meant, so I did want to clarify that. Outside of that, man, I appreciate you guys joining us, or joining me right here. I'm so used to saying that on Talk That Talk. But I will be back next week with some more news right here from Luke's Band Report.